He is Cyril and Rainer's teammate.
There we go. Anyways, upper left for Basilisk. The teammate of Rainer and Cyril is apparently really relevant to this conversation. It's Trigger.
You said it's teammates. You said, is he one of their teammates? No.
I said, is he one of his teammates?
Is he one of his own teammates? Is he a teammate of himself? Is that what you were asking?
Is he Rainer or Cyril? No, but he's, looking good.
I see. Yeah, in the top right-hand side, is he Cyril or Rainer? Not really. It is Dolan for the cranky ducklings. He's a beast.
Yes, I got a question for you.
Eric is one of his teammates, I think. Yeah.
How many what's the over/under on how many bases Dolan takes in this series?
I'm gonna say over under 4.
I think he gets up to 4 command centers in this series.
For sure.
Yeah, probably. I think a lot of his stuff is right now is probably 2-based anyways. Because Dolan, of course, is known for one thing, and that is his Dolan builds. It's actually kind of funny. So at Atlanta last year, so not like three months ago, but at the previous Atlanta, Dolan was hanging out with. If you could turn your headset away from the microphone.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah,
gotta get rid of that echo there. But Dolan was hanging out with Hero Marine and some other Terrans, and they were just like going over the Dolan builds because, well, Dolan is maybe not as mechanically clean as a Hero Marine or a Maru or a Clem or something. His builds are just really, really good. They're interesting. They're wild. They hit you off timings, and it's the reason that he generally qualifies into Americas. That he'll occasionally take someone's name, right, and have a decent run, because his builds are just, they're wild. They're all over the place, and that doesn't mean he's gonna do it in this game, cats, or what we're gonna see. But when you're watching Dolan, you gotta have your eye out a little bit, because he's got wrinkles. His brain is not smooth. His brain has more crevasses than the Arctic ice shelf. Like, it is deep and wrinkly.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And Trigger here is going to be pushing out to try to make something happen. He is more of a straightforward player for the most part, but his brain also has wrinkles in some other ways, right? Like, he's not maybe looking to redefine and like recreate strategies and whatnot, but the way that he uses his units and he uses the resources available to him, always very efficient, always clean, always looking for like the minimum input to output type situations to make sure that he maximizes his efficiency. He's a powerful player, a player that likes playing Stalkers a lot, for example.
Yeah, and actually, when you mentioned this about him playing Blink Stalkers, I think it's more that he just doesn't like Stargate play in this matchup, which we talked about this earlier on in one of the other series, where you're talking about, like, okay, yeah, we had Disc in Future, where going Hellion drops makes a lot of sense, because Disc is one of those players that you're pretty sure that he's going to open Twilight. Highly unlikely he opens Stargate, just because of how he plays, because of what he likes. And this is another one of those setups where it would make sense to see Dolan do some sort of Hellion drop in this game. Because, again, Trigger, 99 games out of 100 in TVP, he's going to open Stargate. Or he's going to open Twilight, 3-gate, 4-gate, get aggressive with it. Doesn't really like 2-gate all that much because it doesn't give you enough aggressive. It doesn't give you enough presence on the map. And again, if you know that as Dolan, hit him with Hellions. Hit him with that kind of drop, because, again, that's very good against that style.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if Dolan is gonna heed your advice here. As for the time being, Trigger is the one moving out with a little bit of a squad of Blink Stalkers, now soon to be, and in the next 5 or so seconds we'll pick off a little bit of an SCV there, but no real way to blink up the high ground for now.
Yeah, so you're waiting for your War Prism, realistically, anyways. So Dolan, this is a 3-1-1. All right, this is a pretty standard setup. Now, the difference, of course, this is a 6-minute stem. This is not 7:30, which is, funnily enough, the quicker timing is the greedier timing. It feels weird, right? But this 6-minute stem generally gets a third base faster than 7:30, right? It doesn't, not as many units, but it makes up where we're just hitting that much faster. And look at this from Trigger. This is not charge follow-up. There's no Robo Bay on the way. He's adding a Dark Shrine, cats, against a notoriously aggressive Terran. How do you feel about this?
I love it, right? Like, yeah, exactly for the reasons that you mentioned just now. If it is a player that's not gonna look to take a third very often, or most commonly, then that's gonna be less scans available for the DTs on defense, and you can always be offensive with them as well. So, Dark Shrine is a great choice here.
Yeah, for now, Stalker's in the main base as well. Getting a couple SCV. You're not going to get a ton here. Certainly, you're looking down the barrel of Stim in 30, 20 odd seconds. But anything you can do to get a scout off, to get into the main base, slow things down just a little bit is always really nice. If you're a fan of Trigger. If you're not a fan of Trigger, you're really sad about it. But you know,
yeah,
that's just how StarCraft goes. Ooh, gets on top of a tank, maybe damage done, but he's not going to kill the tank, and his Stalkers aren't really brought together. And this is where it gets a little scary, right? Stim is done right now, actually. So Trigger, loses a couple Stalkers, gets a lot of Marines. But because he took a pit stop for the Dark Shrine, and yes, in the main base, you're not going to have as many scans. You're absolutely right. He's going to be able to outpace the... Oh, that is bad.
Oh, damn.
There's the DT in the
natural. That is really bad. It goes back in for seconds as well, but the one in the natural is doing a lot of work, like you were alluding to. The next scan will get rid of the one in the main, and there is one scan available for the DT in the natural, but there's also DTs on the other side, so the scan will go there instead, where Dolan is going to pretty much be in a very all-in position. Trigger will be relegated to one base, and yeah, I mean, he is just warping in one DT at a time, and that seems like it's probably going to be enough for this.
It's taken a while for him to knock this down, and this is a lot of damage, but at the end of the day, the DTs, they're hunting down the tanks, right? That's their job in this game. Dolan's going to try to get as much damage done as possible. Drops a scan here. This is 16 dead probes. It's a late pull out of Trigger. So he doesn't lose his third base, but 16 probes are dead. Trigger, he's got a 6-worker lead. But this game is still decent for Trigger, absolutely. But it could have been a lot better. 17 dead probes. It equalizes the economy some level. Obviously, of course, Trigger, he's out in the 3 Nexus. He can rebuild 3 at a time. It's not the end of the world. But not as clean as you would like to see it if you're a Trigger fan.
I think if you're a Trigger fan, you're okay. He already won this game, right? Like, Dolan can't really do much from here on out. It's not like he has that third CC or third orbital to fall back on. It's not like he's gonna have ever an easy time establishing his natural or moving out against DTs for that matter. And Trigger can just kind of happily continue to get further and further ahead. You know, you use one scan as a Dolan, then Trigger should have another DT ready to go. He should. He's even gonna save this one. That's just insult to injury.
Man, you love that one. And yeah, there's a missile turret that's going to be just about done, but you got to have an army there to take advantage of it. And, well, there's just not a lot of army for Dolan right now. So Trigger just being as obnoxious as possible. At this point, it's like, okay, you're right. Or you're right, Kat. Like, was Trigger the cleanest? No, not really. But doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the opening, the build order choice against Dolan was really well done. That one DT. And then one DT, and then one DT. Every scan timing is a great way to make sure your opponent has no money. And again, because these DTs are on the map and because you have so few orbitals, you can't even mule your way back into the game. You gotta save those scans. Even with missile turrets, we're seeing that the angles being found. And if you want to get aggressive at all, I mean, obviously you need scans. So Dolan, he doesn't have scans back. His worker count's pretty low. There's no third base. Trigger's gonna run across the map in like a minute and a half. Probably. Maybe wait. Extended thermal lance is probably the timing, and I don't know what Dolan's supposed to do about that.
Yeah. What makes you think it's gonna be extended thermal lance? Just yeah.
Well, the fact that it's the obvious timing that you're waiting for, right? You know, Colossus without that additional range or not, they can be much easier to get dove upon by Marauders and things like that. So you wait for the upgrade to complete. That'll give you 2.5 Colossus. Third one probably on the way, just about done. And you shove up the ramp and say, hey, Dolan, I got Colossus. You do not have Vikings. What you gonna do about it?
Yeah. Dolan on the other end is getting ghosts, so a lot of the time you get like 3 ghosts or something like that and go for an attack, maybe pull the boys. I'm always a fan of in dire situations. That's exactly what Dolan's gonna do. So I kind of like this because, yeah, it's his own timing, right? And it will hit, unfortunately for him, about the time at which Trigger is gonna have thermal lance. But I think this is one of the better bets that he can place on this game. It's still a very, very low percentage chance. But yeah, what can you do? I mean, there's barely anything here, to be honest. This is not going to work out.
Yeah, you know, the downside, at least, I mean, EMP's hit everything, but look at that. Trigger does F2 his Warp Prism back through a missile turret, so he loses the Warp Prism as he's trying to get harassment. And you know what? Cats.
What?
That is one answer to a bunch of harass. All right, if you're losing all your SCVs and they're getting harassed down, and you're just slowly losing your economy. One way to make sure that to deny the harass is just to pull your SCVs onto the other side of the map, because then the zealots in your main base won't kill him.
Got him.
That's how that works. I don't make the rules, Cats.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, yeah, I think in that situation as dire as that one, you just, well, my door just opened, but in a situation as dire as that one, you just, pull the SCVs and hope for the best, and that's the best that you can do.
Yeah.
Because you're just dead otherwise.
Very, very, very dead. Part of that was, of course, we'll get Cats back in a second. Part of that was, of course, build order choice from Trigger doing a really nice job about saying like again, aggressive Terran. I'm just gonna open DTs. Part of it was really good play. Part of it was Dolan a little bit slow on the scans. He had 100 mineral or 100 energy on the natural that he wasn't really spending. That was allowing these DTs to get more damage done. And part of it was the DT showed up as he was on the map. So really not a lot of defensive power there. So now as we move into Dynasty, which is a massive map, it's got a gold base in your natural. Do we do anything with that one? I don't know. Is it DTs again? Is that just a really good answer to how Paul Dolan likes to play, Cats? Or do we go some other option?
I don't mind it. It's very smart. Right, if your opponent is always going for like low command centers, then yeah, DTs are always going to be good. Maybe Dolan could adjust and do something like a timing with a Raven, right?
Yeah, that'd be... I do like Raven pushes. I don't like it as much as I used to, because
That's
again,
tough, yeah.
Interference Matrix slows it down a little bit. But if you're going to open Blinkstalker or Colossus, a 2 Raven push, not a bad idea, right?
Yeah, I don't hate it, right? Because otherwise, if you're this predictable and you're going to be 2 basing and whatnot, then yeah, the DTs are going to be a problem, I think.
Well, maybe trying to make some invisible men maybe a little bit more visible and relevant and, recognized in our society. He's doing his good work for Basilisk. It's Trigger.
What a guy.
What a guy.
And in the bottom left-hand side, it is for the Cranky Ducklings, Paul Dolan.
Dolan. All right, so Cats, that was 2 bases taken, 2 command centers taken by Dolan in game number 1. Yeah, Dolan, you gotta hope that he doesn't. I don't think you won base on Dynasty. I just don't think it's possible.
Chance.
It's just too big. So looking like saying 2 or more is pretty accurate. So congratulations, the man. Catstradamus knows his StarCraft.
Wow, that's very nice. But yeah, I mean, it's possibly the last game of the day, Biomolf. So hopefully we get a good one. Or do you believe in Dolan to it would be definitely an upset, right? If he was to bring it to a 3rd game.
Cats, I'm gonna be honest.
Do you believe?
I love Dolan. He's a great guy.
But
he's got a great beard. 0 shot.
But
I don't think he takes us to game
0
3.
shot. Jesus.
I don't think. Okay. Maybe 0 is a little bit too aggressive. I think it is highly unlikely that he beats Trigger in this series. Certainly on a map that is far more macro. It is macro oriented than most other maps in the. I mean, Dynasty's massive, and you get a free gold base. I guess Trigger's going to take it as his 3rd. Whatever. We'll have to see. But on a map that is so macro focused, that is so big, that gives you so much money, I think Trigger is, again, he's massively favored in this setup, and this map favors the better player.
Okay. Let's see what Dolan can do here is he's just going to be crossing the map with his first Reaper. Gonna jump into the main of Trigger and gonna try to scout what he can scout. It's Trigger that's dropping at Twilight Council this time around. That will be... Oh, actually Dolan's not even gonna try to go for it. And if he had it, it's very deep, so the Reaper would have likely died for the information. Instead, he's gonna poke from the front and make sure that there is a Nexus and what the timing on that is.
Okay, Cats, I think you're gonna be right? This is a big map. It's really hard to push across. Clearly, there's gonna be some sort of natural. No, in fact, maybe later if the game goes weird and doesn't get enough damage done, but enough to stabilize. This is a Concussive Shell Marauder Hellion build. Does he drop an armory here? I don't think Hellbats against Protoss are very good, but this feels like a one-base Hellbat Marauder player, or at least, you know, I guess. There we go. Armory on the way. This is, you talked about last game, you talked about Dolan builds. Cats, this is a Dolan build.
All right. Let's see what it can accomplish. I mean, it certainly is a build order with Marauders and Hellbats potentially, as well as Medevac. So it feels very reminiscent of like TVP or TVC rather type openings. And you know, there have been some buffs to this opening in some sense, but is that enough of a buff to, you know, make it usable in the matchup? I don't know. I mean, maybe, right? You'll have the Medevac as well for this. It's kind of cute. Let's see.
Yeah, well, he's gonna run across the map now with Marauderous intent as, you know what? Fine. Nice. I guess he's gonna get that base. This doesn't count though. This is, look, if this attack doesn't get damage done,
big though.
The game's over, right? This is,
nah, Dolan's got this, man. Check this out. I mean, he's powerful right now, and he's gonna be morphing into Hellbats already before he's even spotted. And the Marauders, they're not moving forward for some reason. I wouldn't even mind it if they kind of just stay and cut off reinforcements from the Stalkers, but instead he's going after the Pylon. And it will end up working out. Does depower 2 of those gateways, so there's just the 1. And other than that, there's a shield battery overcharge going on that he has to be really careful with. Now the Medevac is taking a little bit of fire, and fire is also being spread from the jaws of this Hellbat. It's going really well for Dolan, no?
I mean, it's going just about as well as you could hope it would, but the Medevac's dead now, and Hellbats are going to all get knocked down. He's getting a lot, absolutely. But unless Trigger had actually, like, I don't know why Trigger pulled the probes from the natural to the main, but yeah. I mean, he didn't kill any economy. Trigger's up 30. Trigger's up 9 workers. Trigger's economy's going like gangbusters. Yeah, there's a gold, but trading army for army when you're one basing versus a 2-base player, you get your second a lot later, is pretty much never great. That being said, Banshee, Cloak, maybe this can get something done.
Yeah, this is pretty nifty. No Observer just around here at the moment. In fact, no Observer at all. It's going to have to be chrono boosted. But Dolan doesn't know that, so he's just going to respect things and pull back for the time being. I don't know if he can afford to do that. Maybe just wait for the second Banshee is what he's doing, so that he can one-shot probes regardless of there being any sort of shield batteries or anything like that. This Banshee likely to get intercepted though, as it's going to be at least spotted by the 4 Stalkers.
That does mean though that it has to spend a decent amount of energy. Now this is 2 Banshees that do one-shot probes. They can work through any number of shield batteries.
Same for the Stalkers.
I love this. It's so hard to hold on to this gold base. I'm a little surprised that we're not seeing Trigger try to take his own gold. He has so much presence on the map right now, but instead he's going to take the forward base, which I guess is more defensible against tank pushes and things, and there is that, as the Banshees are now going to be revealed. There's an Observer. Yeah, they should be able to get in the main base. There's like one. Yeah, there's enough here. One Banshee's going to go down. Yeah, this is... Probes are like... He's going to get 6 probes, but 5 probes out on the other side. And remember, Trigger's got his 3rd base on the way. He's a 2-base Protoss for the moment in terms of how much he's mining at. He's denying a lot of Dolan's mining on this gold base. The economies are just in no way, shape, or form comparable. Not really.
Not really. Not at all. So yeah, I mean, a lot of trouble here. I feel like that first attack from Dolan could have done a little bit more, but yeah, also an overwhelming investment into the first strike that he went for, right? But I feel like that Medevac had a little bit more potential if it loads the Hellions at some point, right, and throws them into the natural base, for example. Like that could have been big. But as it stands, I mean, yeah, they just didn't do much against Stalkers, and it's kind of sad. I mean, Dolan had some chances, but looking now pretty grim, no?
Yeah, and you know, I think you talk about Dolan maybe could have done a little bit more. I think on the same side, I think Trigger, again, he wasn't perfect on the defense. He didn't target the Medevac down when he had opportunities, and that Medevac staying alive for like a solid 60 seconds really made it hard. He gave so much healing to the Hellbats and the Marauders and all that fun stuff. And the Stalkers now try to show up. Dolan opens the door and says, yes, come into my lair, said the spider to the fly. And well, there's a whole lot of spiders in that nest. Trigger's gonna have to back up for the time being. He cannot fight this army with the Stalkers. He can knock a Marine down here or there, but Dolan does have this timing. Army supplies are equal. Here's the trick though, Cats. Charge is done. The tanks are with the army, so Well, yeah, again, this is the solution. You're getting harassed. You're worried about your opponent. Like, your opponent's not letting you mine. Just pull your SCVs to the other side of the map, and that's your solution.
Yeah, he's pulling the ones in the main as well. So yeah, this game will end one way or the other ever so briefly here, as Dolan is trying to get set up to go through a choke, which is pretty smart. But the scan also reveals that some of the army of Trigger lies to the left-hand side and looking for a flank. And that's exactly what Trigger is going to be looking to do as the shield battery overcharge gets popped. On the other side, however, half of his army gets kind of caught. So gotta be really careful there if you're a Trigger fan. And here we go, blinking onto the tanks.
Yeah, Stalker's gonna get it right on top of the tank. Trigger was supply block going into this. His +1 wasn't done yet, but I mean,
GG.
you know, Cats, you say this game is ending.